She thought she knew him. Olivia Carter is a rising star in the competitive world of corporate marketing. Driven, principled, and full of heart, she's about to present her biggest project yet at a high-profile conference in Los Angeles. But the moment her plane touches down, things start to fall apart. Lost luggage, canceled reservations, a coworker with a perfect smile, but a poisonous plan. And through it all, Olivia leans on the one person she believes she can trust, her quiet, bookstore manager boyfriend, Marcus. But Marcus, he's not exactly who she thinks he is. As the sabotage escalates and whispers of scandal begin to spread, Olivia's confidence crumbles. In hotel lobbies and conference halls, betrayal moves like smoke, and every step forward feels like a trap. But what Olivia doesn't know is, Marcus isn't watching helplessly from afar. He's been closer than anyone realizes. And when the final blow lands, one moment, one truth, will silence the lies forever. What if the man standing quietly beside you turned out to be the power behind the whole game? Hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to unravel everything you thought you knew about loyalty, ambition, and the quiet strength of real love. The rain had that steady rhythm only Seattle seemed to perfect. Soft, persistent, and somehow comforting. Olivia Carter stood by the window of her modest Capitol Hill apartment, the morning light casting a pale glow over her travel bag. She double-checked her itinerary for the 5th time, the conference badge clipped to her carry-on like a symbol of how far she'd come. "This is it," she whispered to herself, exhaling as if trying to let go of the anxiety that clung to her chest. Behind her, the smell of cinnamon drifted in from the kitchen. Marcus Holloway, in his usual navy sweater and worn jeans, was fixing breakfast. 2 slices of sourdough, scrambled eggs, and black coffee the way she liked it. He wasn't flashy, never had been, just steady, kind. The type of man who remembered small things and made them feel like big things. "You'll be brilliant," Marcus said without turning, his voice calm, grounded. "They'll remember your pitch, not your blazer." She chuckled. "The blazer is part of the pitch." He turned to her with a soft smile. "Then they'll remember both." Olivia had met Marcus 6 months ago in a little used bookstore tucked between a dry cleaner and a dentist's office. She'd come in chasing a book on branding psychology and walked out with a phone number scrawled on her receipt. What started as coffee dates and book debates turned into something sturdier. Real partnership. Real quiet. But there were still things she didn't know about him. He rarely talked about his past. Said he used to be in tech but preferred simpler things now. She respected that. After all, she wasn't interested in his bank account. Just his heart. Still, as she sipped the coffee he handed her, she caught something in his expression. A kind of watchfulness, as if he was memorizing her face. "You're thinking too hard," she teased. "Just thinking how proud I am of you," he replied, but his eyes said more. There was something else buried beneath his smile. Belmont Enterprises was sending Olivia to Los Angeles to unveil a new multi-platform marketing strategy she'd spent the last 4 months building from scratch. Her campaign, themed Rooted in Real, focused on honest branding in an age of digital illusion. A bold move, considering Belmont's reputation for ruthless optics. But Olivia believed in sincerity. She still thought the truth could sell, if it was told right. "You sure you don't want to come with me?" she asked, leaning on the kitchen island. He shook his head. "Someone's got to keep the bookstore running. Besides, I think you've got this one." A beat passed. "Well," she said, "if you change your mind." He crossed to her, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "I'll be right here when you get back." The drive to the airport was quiet, broken only by the hum of tires and the occasional song on the radio. Marcus reached over and squeezed her hand when they hit traffic. No words needed. At SeaTac, as they hugged goodbye at the curb, he whispered, "Don't let anyone steal your light, okay?" She nodded against his chest. "I won't." And then she was gone, dragging her suitcase behind her, heels clicking against the terminal floor, her heart split between nerves and anticipation. Marcus didn't drive away immediately. He sat for a moment, hands resting on the wheel, the clouds thick above him. Then he pulled out his phone. "Confirm full oversight," he said into the receiver. "Start at the airport. Let me know the moment she's targeted." A pause. "Yes," discreetly. He ended the call and finally pulled away from the curb. Because Marcus Holloway wasn't a bookstore manager. Not really. And Olivia Carter was about to find herself at the center of something far bigger than a product launch. The warm Los Angeles air hit Olivia like a soft slap the moment she stepped out of LAX. It was a world away from Seattle's drizzle, sun-bright, buzzing with motion, palms lining the streets like sentinels of success. She pulled her blazer tighter over her tank dress and walked with purpose toward baggage claim. Her heels clicked with that same quiet confidence she carried at every boardroom meeting. Only this time, it was personal. She was here to prove herself, to show Belmont's board that authenticity still had a place in marketing, that she had earned this spotlight. But the first crack came early. After 20 minutes at the carousel, her suitcase never arrived. Olivia frowned, scanning the line of bags circling for the third time. She stepped over to the nearest baggage help desk where a tired-looking agent glanced at her ticket and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Carter. It looks like your luggage may have been misrouted. Possibly Denver?" "Denver?" Olivia's voice rose slightly. "I'm not going to Denver." The agent offered a plastic smile. "We'll expedite delivery. Should have it within 48 hours. Olivia forced a breath through her nose, gripping her carry-on tighter. Her presentation outfit, her backup flash drives, even the small travel gift Marcus had tucked inside, gone. She called her assistant, Kayla. No answer, just voicemail. "Hey, it's Olivia. I just landed. Can you let me know what's going on? I thought you'd be at the hotel already." She ended the call and walked toward the curb, trying to keep her thoughts from spiraling. LA was beautiful, but it moved fast. Too fast for mistakes. A sleek black sedan pulled up with her name scrawled on a cardboard sign through the windshield. She gave the driver a weary smile and climbed in, texting Marcus a quick update. No luggage, already a mess, but I'll manage. He responded almost instantly. "You always do. Just breathe. I'm proud of you." She smiled softly at the message, then looked out the window. The streets of downtown Los Angeles blurred past, luxury boutiques, glass towers, and street vendors side by side. She'd never been here for more than layovers, but this time she wasn't a tourist. She was a contender. But the chaos wasn't done yet. At the hotel front desk, the concierge looked confused after checking her name. "I'm sorry, Ms. Carter. It seems your reservation was canceled yesterday." Olivia blinked. "That's not possible. Belmont made the arrangements. I confirmed them myself 2 days ago." The woman tapped the keyboard again, then shrugged. "All I can see is that someone from your company called to cancel. We're fully booked for the weekend, unfortunately." Heat flushed Olivia's neck. "Do you have the name of the person who canceled?" "Sorry, we can't release that information." "Of course not." Olivia stepped aside, panic threatening to grip her chest. This couldn't be happening. The conference was tomorrow. She needed a place to work, prep, sleep. She took another breath, pulled out her phone, and was about to look up nearby hotels when a sharply dressed staff member approached. "Ms. Carter?" he asked, voice calm. She looked up, surprised. "Yes?" "I've been informed that a special suite has just become available for you. Compliments of another guest who made an early checkout. You've been upgraded to the Monet suite, if you'll follow me." Olivia hesitated. "Who requested that?" He smiled politely. "I was simply told to escort you personally." Confused but grateful, Olivia followed him toward the elevator. As they rose, she clutched her phone, checking again for any word from Kayla. Still nothing. Inside the suite, everything was pristine. Cool marble floors, sun-drenched windows, fresh orchids by the bed. And on the coffee table, a welcome gift. A single envelope with her name in neat handwriting. She opened it slowly. "Keep going. You're not alone." No signature, no logo, just those 7 words. Her heart thumped. Back in Seattle, Marcus leaned back in his chair, his laptop open to a secure feed. His eyes scanned the updates, then drifted to the photo of Olivia he kept on the desk. "She's in," he said quietly into his phone. "Now, let's see who shows their hand first." The next morning, Olivia stood in front of the floor-length mirror in the Monet suite, adjusting the neckline of her borrowed blouse. With her luggage still MIA and limited options, she'd pieced together an outfit from what she'd packed in her carry-on and a few late-night emergency purchases from a nearby boutique. It wasn't her first choice for the conference's kickoff breakfast, but it would do. She brushed a loose curl behind her ear and whispered to her reflection, "You belong here, no matter what they throw at you." Downstairs, the conference center buzzed with energy. Industry leaders mingling over pastries and espresso, polished executives trading compliments with practiced smiles. The glass-paneled event hall glowed with sunlight and success. Olivia scanned the crowd for someone from Belmont's board. No sign of them yet. Then, a voice as smooth as syrup slid up behind her. "Well, well, look who made it after all." Olivia turned to find Bianca Rhodes standing there, perfectly poised in an ivory pantsuit, her manicured fingers wrapped around a cappuccino cup. Tall, striking, and immaculately styled, Bianca was the kind of woman people listened to before they even heard what she had to say. Olivia managed a polite nod. "Bianca, didn't know you were on the roster this week." "Oh, I'm not," Bianca replied sweetly. "Just tagging along with a few friends from the board. Thought I'd support the team." She sipped. "By the way, rough travel day yesterday?" Olivia's eyes narrowed, just slightly. "Yeah, lost my luggage, reservation disappeared. Weird string of coincidences." Bianca tilted her head, faux concern flickering across her face. "That's awful. I would have helped if I'd known. You should have called." "I did call," Olivia said coolly. "Kayla never picked up." Bianca blinked, then recovered quickly. "That's strange. I'll talk to her." Before Olivia could respond, a man in a Belmont blazer approached them. "Ladies, they're starting to seat for the keynote. There's a reserved section up front." Bianca placed a hand lightly on Olivia's shoulder. "Shall we?" They walked in together, but Olivia's instincts were buzzing. Something about Bianca's timing and her sudden appearance here felt too convenient. Marcus's message echoed in her mind. "You're not alone." She took her seat at the end of the row, 2 seats down from Bianca, and opened her notebook. The morning progressed smoothly until the networking lunch. Belmont had reserved a long table on the terrace overlooking the skyline. Olivia made her way there early, eager to speak with a few potential clients who'd expressed interest in her campaign. A server handed her a glass of white wine as she sat down. She set her tablet on the table, flipping through notes and brushing away a small anxiety that clung to her like static. Bianca appeared moments later, gliding into the seat across from her, smiling. "Cheers to making it through the morning," she said, raising her own glass. Olivia clinked glasses lightly and turned to greet one of the guests just arriving at the table, a senior VP from one of the firms she hoped to collaborate with. As Olivia leaned forward to introduce herself, Bianca subtly tipped her elbow, and Olivia's wine spilled directly into the lap of the VP's white slacks. "Oh, no," Olivia gasped, reaching for napkins. The VP stood abruptly, clearly uncomfortable and muttering something about fresh air. Olivia's face flushed deep red. "I'm so sorry. Let me help." "It's fine," he said tersely, walking off. Bianca made a soft, tisking noise. "Poor thing. Nerves, maybe? Several nearby guests glanced over, whispering. Olivia sat frozen, her hands clenched in her lap. The moment felt rehearsed, planned. But she had no proof, not yet. From a balcony above, Marcus watched silently, his jaw tight. Dressed casually with a pair of dark sunglasses masking his gaze, he observed Bianca's smug smile and the subtle glance she cast toward a man seated at the next table, someone Marcus recognized. He took out his phone and sent a quiet text. "She's moving fast. Keep eyes on roads, and pull hotel cam logs from 12:20 to 12:45. It was time to stop watching and start preparing. The hotel room felt colder than it had the night before, even with the Los Angeles sun streaking gold through the window. Olivia stood at the minibar, staring blankly at a sparkling water she wasn't drinking. Her tablet lay on the bed, still open to her revised presentation notes. But she couldn't concentrate. Not after the lunch incident. Not after watching her biggest networking opportunity evaporate under a flood of wine and humiliation. She hadn't heard from Kayla. No apology, no explanation. And Bianca? She hadn't even pretended to follow up. The silence after embarrassment was always the loudest. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Marcus calling. She swiped quickly, relieved to hear his voice. "Hey," she breathed. "Perfect timing. You okay?" His voice was low, concerned. Steady, like always. Olivia hesitated. Define okay. There was a beat of silence. "Talk to me." She sat down on the edge of the bed. "I feel like I'm being set up. Like someone wants me to fall on my face before I even get to speak tomorrow. The lost luggage, the hotel, today's lunch." Her voice cracked. "I know how this looks. They think I'm clumsy or unprofessional." "You're not," Marcus said. "None of this is your fault." She swallowed hard, brushing a tear from the corner of her eye. "It's just, Bianca's being so fake, pretending to support me. But I can feel it, Marcus, like she's circling." "She is," he said quietly. "What?" Marcus cleared his throat. "I mean, she's always been competitive. You've said it yourself." Olivia sighed. "Yeah, but this feels different. Calculated." Another pause. Marcus leaned back in the black car parked 2 blocks from the hotel. Through the tinted window, he could still see the conference center. His other phone buzzed. In his lap, an encrypted update from his security team. Cam footage confirms deliberate interference at lunch. Target? Carter. Initiator? Rhodes. Timestamp attached. He didn't reply. Instead, he focused on Olivia's voice again. "Tomorrow's the big presentation," she said. "I have to stand in front of the board and the entire industry, and I feel like everything's unraveling before I get the chance." Marcus closed his eyes briefly. "You'll rise. You always do." "But I'm tired of having to rise from sabotage," she murmured. "I know," he said. "But you're not alone." She smiled faintly. "That sounds familiar." He chuckled under his breath. "Maybe I've said it before." They talked for a few more minutes, about little things. Her nerves. The color of the sky outside her window. The playlist he'd made her that she never played past track 7. By the time they hung up, Olivia felt calmer. Not fixed, but anchored. Meanwhile, Marcus stepped out of the car and into the side entrance of a quiet private office suite above a luxury watch store. His security team lead, Carl, was already waiting inside. "Everything's in motion," Carl said, handing over a file. "Rhodes is working with someone inside Belmont. Possibly Howard Dunn." Marcus flipped through the dossier. Screenshots, emails, surveillance timestamps. Dunn's been pushing for Olivia's campaign to be shelved. He's been in contact with Bianca for weeks. We've tracked 3 encrypted calls and 2 unlogged meeting room entries at HQ. Marcus's jaw tightened. "She's being boxed in from both sides." Carl nodded. "Do we go public yet?" "Not yet," Marcus said. "Let it build. but flag all further moves against her. No surprises tomorrow." Carl raised an eyebrow. "When do you plan to show your face?" Marcus glanced out the window at the glowing city skyline. "When it counts." Later that night, Olivia opened her hotel door to find another envelope slipped underneath. No handwriting this time, just a message printed neatly on cardstock. "Some people play games, others play for keeps. Keep your heart steady. You've got more allies than you think." No signature, no logo, just those words, and a sudden, strange comfort. Somewhere in the city, Marcus Holloway removed his watch and loosened his tie, eyes fixed on the conference schedule. Tomorrow, the spotlight would shine, and the truth would start to surface. Olivia stood backstage at the Wilshire Conference Center, the final presentation slides queued up on her tablet. Her palms were slightly damp, but her spine was straight. She'd rehearsed this pitch until it echoed in her sleep, clear, sharp, heartfelt. This was her moment. A production assistant peeked through the curtain. "You're up next, Ms. Carter. 2 minutes." She nodded, drawing a slow breath to center herself. Across the stage curtain, the audience was already murmuring. She caught flashes of navy suits, champagne flutes, tablets being tucked away. Belmont executives were seated front row, alongside reps from 3 venture partners and a few industry reporters. Bianca sat at the far end, legs crossed, expression unreadable. Olivia didn't care. Not now. Behind the curtain, Marcus stood out of sight, tucked behind a security partition, dressed like just another tech coordinator. He'd passed as an AV vendor this morning, slipping onto the floor without raising suspicion. He watched Olivia intently through a side monitor, jaw tight. Carl's message had come in half an hour ago, final confirmation. Rhodes paid its subcontractor to override Olivia's login. File swaps initiated. The plan was clear. Sabotage her slides, make her look unprepared, discredit her before she even began. Marcus clenched his fist. Not yet. Let them think they've won. Back on stage, the MC introduced her. And now, please welcome Olivia Carter, lead marketing strategist at Belmont Enterprises, here to unveil her vision for transparent branding in a digital world. Applause. Bright lights. Olivia stepped forward. Her voice, calm but firm, carried across the room. "Thank you. When I began crafting the Rooted in Real campaign, I had one belief guiding me, that truth, when told boldly, still matters." She tapped the remote. Nothing happened. She clicked again. Still nothing. A few people shifted in their seats. She glanced at the projection screen. It was black. A blue error box popped up. File corrupted. Cannot load presentation. Laughter bubbled from somewhere near the back. A whisper rippled through the room. Bianca didn't laugh, but her lips curled ever so slightly. Olivia's heartbeat thundered. "Apologies," she said, forcing a steady tone. "Let me try that again." She moved toward the podium's laptop, but the screen showed only a spinning wheel. Frozen. From the side of the room, Marcus watched silently as the chaos unfolded. The tech coordinator on duty looked baffled, pretending to troubleshoot. But Marcus recognized him. The same subcontractor flagged in Carl's report. Carl's voice echoed in Marcus's earpiece. "We have remote access. Do you want us to restore it?" Marcus paused. "No," he said. "Let her handle this." Back on stage, Olivia stepped forward without notes, without visuals, just her voice. "I came here today with data, charts, and product visuals," she said, her voice rising slightly. "But maybe what matters more is the idea behind them. You've all seen enough slideshows to last a lifetime. What I want to leave you with is a question." The room stilled. If customers no longer believe what brands tell them, then what's left? My campaign doesn't rely on filters, fake scarcity, or inflated testimonials. It's about showing the human side, the messy, honest, powerful real. Her words lingered. Even the people in the back leaned forward. Marcus smiled softly. She didn't crumble. She soared. Applause came, not thunderous, but solid, respectful. A few heads nodded. Even some of the board members gave small claps. The MC returned to thank her, and Olivia exited the stage slowly, her breath catching only when she reached the curtain. Backstage, she sat on a folding chair and stared at the floor. Bianca walked by moments later, pausing just long enough to drop a saccharin. "You handled that well. Tough break with the slides, though. That's the problem with relying on tech. So unreliable." Olivia said nothing, but she didn't need to. Because as Bianca walked away, Marcus quietly stepped out from the shadows, already uploading the access logs from the corrupted laptop to a secure server. One move at a time. The game was still unfolding, but the real player had just begun. The conference center was buzzing, but Olivia Carter sat completely still in the corner of the hotel lobby, her blazer folded over her lap, her phone untouched on the armrest beside her. A half-drunk latte sat on the side table, long since gone cold. She'd replayed the entire morning in her head a dozen times. The black screen, the error message, the way Bianca had lingered near the exit just long enough to twist the knife. The sting of embarrassment hadn't fully worn off. It wasn't just the glitch. It was the whispering, the side eyes, the smug curve of Bianca's lips pretending to be helpful while watching Olivia drown. She stared at her reflection in the polished marble floor. She didn't look like herself, or maybe she looked exactly like herself. Stripped down, no armor, no slides to hide behind. She had shown up with integrity, and still, someone had decided that wasn't enough. She shifted in the velvet armchair, trying to pull herself together. Her hands had stopped shaking, but her chest still felt tight. What now? Tomorrow was the final board debrief. She had no second chance, no backup plan. A quiet rustle broke her daze. A hotel janitor, older, with gray in his beard and tired eyes, passed by with a mop bucket. As he walked near her chair, something fluttered to the ground. A small, folded note, no bigger than a receipt. Olivia blinked and looked up. "Sir?" "You dropped," but he was already down the hall, pushing his cart, blending back into the endless hum of luxury. She picked up the note. It was folded twice, with one clean crease. Unfolding it, she saw 6 simple words, typed in plain font. "They planned this. Keep your head up." She stared. No signature, no logo, just like before. Her breath caught. Was this someone's idea of a cruel joke? Or was someone watching? A fresh chill climbed her spine, but it wasn't fear. It was clarity. Someone knew, someone saw what happened, and someone wanted her to keep fighting. She glanced around the lobby. Guests scrolling phones, 2 receptionists chatting behind the desk, a concierge poring over a dinner reservation list. None of them looked suspicious. None of them looked heroic either. She folded the note slowly and slid it into her pocket, sitting a little taller. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. She answered quickly. "Hey." His voice came through warm and steady. "Just checking in." "I bombed," she said quietly, too tired to pretend. "No," he replied. "You didn't. You improvised under pressure. You spoke from the heart. That's more than most people ever manage." There was a pause. "I don't know if it mattered," she whispered. "They won't remember what I said, just that my screen went black." "They'll remember you stood your ground," Marcus said, "and that's not nothing." Olivia let the silence hang, her hand resting on the folded note in her pocket. "Can I ask you something?" she finally said. "Anything. Do you ever feel like the higher you climb, the more people look for ways to push you off the ledge?" "All the time," Marcus said, without hesitation. "But the trick isn't holding the top spot. It's knowing what matters when someone tries to knock you off it. She didn't know why his words meant so much just then, but they did, and for the first time all day, she smiled. Small, quiet, but real. "I needed that," she said. "I know," he answered. "You've got more in you, Olivia. More than they can take with a few bad tricks." "Thanks," she whispered. "And thank you for just always being there. Always." After they hung up, Olivia rose from the chair. She smoothed her dress, gathered her things, and walked with renewed purpose toward the elevator. Tomorrow, the board would see her again. And this time, she wouldn't just be prepared. She'd be ready. The next morning brought a thin layer of fog over Los Angeles, softening the sharp edges of the glass towers outside Olivia's hotel suite. She stood by the window with a fresh cup of black coffee, her reflection pale in the glass. Her eyes were tired, but clear. Today was the board debrief, the final moment. If her words yesterday planted seeds, today's meeting would determine if anything bloomed. She had to walk in poised, collected, and unshakable, no matter what Bianca or anyone else tried. She slipped the mysterious note from her pocket again. They planned this. Keep your head up. The paper was worn now from how often she'd unfolded and read it. She didn't know who left it, but she clung to it like a lifeline. By 9 a.m., she was in the elevator, nerves hidden behind a soft gray blazer and a firm jawline. But the moment she stepped into the conference wing, a ripple passed through the air. Heads turned, not in admiration, in suspicion. Murmurs trailed behind her. Conversations stopped when she approached. Even some of the junior staff who'd smiled at her just the day before now avoided eye contact. A gut instinct told her something had changed. Something bad. Then, James from HR intercepted her just outside the main boardroom. "Olivia," he said, clearing his throat. "Do you have a moment?" Her stomach dropped. "What's going on?" He glanced around, lowered his voice. "There's been a complaint, an allegation actually, about improper use of the company travel card." Olivia blinked. "What?" "Someone submitted an anonymous tip claiming you charged luxury accommodations to the Belmont account, ones not pre-approved by the company." "I didn't even book my own room," she said sharply. "The original reservation was canceled when I arrived, and someone at the hotel upgraded me. I had no idea who—" James looked uncomfortable. "That's not what the email says. It suggests you arranged the upgrade and attempted to pass it off as pre-authorized." Her hands curled into fists. "That's a lie. We're investigating. But until it's cleared, the board's requested that you step back from today's session." "You're kidding." "I'm sorry. I'll keep you posted." Olivia stood there, stunned, as James walked away. From a nearby corner, Bianca watched it all unfold, arms crossed over a soft mauve dress, expression calm. She didn't need to smile. Her satisfaction was in her silence. Across the street, from the tinted windows of a nondescript building, Marcus watched through a live feed on his tablet. Carl leaned over his shoulder, grim. "They're cornering her." "She's not giving up," Marcus said, "but they're running out of soft hits." Carl nodded. "We traced the email. It was sent through an offshore proxy, but we've already narrowed it to a user account accessed by Howard Dunn's assistant, same one who's been coordinating with Rhodes." "Get me the full thread," Marcus said, "and start digging into Dunn's meeting logs. If they're escalating this far, it means they're scared." Carl hesitated. "We're at the line, sir. Do we cross it?" Marcus's eyes didn't move from the screen, where Olivia stood in the hallway, alone, humiliated. "We don't cross lines. We expose the ones they already crossed." He picked up his phone and typed a message. To Hotel Operations. Subject, Incident. Support request. Please release security footage from Monday night and Tuesday morning involving Ms. Olivia Carter's check-in. Also, request signed guest authorizations related to room upgrades. Flag anything under my name. Back at the hotel, Olivia sat in the lobby again. Different chair, same numb feeling. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, you'll be cleared. Just hold tight. Truth's catching up to them. She stared at the message. He knew something. Something more than he let on. How? But before she could type a reply, a shadow fell across her lap. Bianca stood above her, faux sympathy in her eyes. "Rough week," she said, sipping a smoothie. "If it helps, the best ones always get targeted first." And with that, she walked away, leaving Olivia in the quiet tension of a war she didn't start, but was now determined to finish. The late afternoon sun dipped behind the downtown skyline, casting golden light through the tall conference windows. Olivia stood by the sink in the women's restroom, dabbing cold water against her temples. She didn't cry. Not here, not now, but the pressure behind her eyes hadn't let up since HR blindsided her that morning. She'd spent the last 2 hours fielding stiff smiles and careful distance from coworkers she once considered allies. No one outright accused her, but no one stood by her either. Rumors had a way of rotting trust faster than truth could repair it. As she reached for a paper towel, the restroom door creaked open. Bianca, Fatum, course. She strolled in like she owned the air between them, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor, her silk blouse tucked perfectly into tailored slacks. Her reflection in the mirror wore a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Olivia," she said casually, pulling out a lip gloss. "Didn't expect to find you here." Olivia didn't flinch. "Why not?" "Oh, I just thought HR might have kept you occupied." Olivia turned slowly, hands at her sides. "Did you have anything to do with that complaint?" Bianca blinked, lips curving. "Accusations like that could get you into even deeper trouble, you know." There it was, a veiled threat, coated in expensive lip shine. Bianca leaned on the counter, voice soft. "Look, I get it. You want to believe the system's fair, that hard work pays off, that truth wins." She shrugged. "But people like you and me, we don't always get handed the rules. We learn how to play the game." "I'm not playing any games," Olivia replied, jaw tight. "That's your problem." Bianca's voice dropped lower. "This company's about image, control. You think your cute campaign and ethical branding speech actually matter to people making six-figure bonuses off manipulated metrics?" Olivia stared at her, stunned. "You're really saying this out loud?" "I'm saying this because you need to walk away." Bianca stepped closer. "I know people in that boardroom who want you gone. I'm offering you a chance to leave on your own terms, before someone makes it ugly." There was a silence, heavy, charged, and then Olivia spoke, voice low but firm. "You underestimate me." Bianca chuckled. "No, honey. I know exactly what you are. That's why I'm making the offer, because if you dig too deep, you'll find more than you're ready for." Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked out, the door clicking shut behind her. Olivia stood alone in the echoing silence. Her pulse roared in her ears, but not from fear, from rage. She pulled out her phone and sent a single message to Marcus. "She just threatened me. I'm done staying quiet." Less than a minute passed before he called. "Are you okay?" His voice was steady, but underlined with urgency. "I'm fine, but Bianca isn't bluffing anymore. She knows someone inside's helping her." Marcus exhaled. "That's what I needed to hear." "What does that mean?" "I'm meeting someone tonight," he said. "A private investigator. Been tracking her connections for weeks. You're not imagining any of this. There's real corruption tied to that boardroom, and she's right in the center of it." Olivia's breath caught. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I needed proof, and I needed to protect you." She paused, her voice softening. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Another pause. "Marcus," she said carefully, "who are you really?" He didn't answer at first, but his voice dropped, tender and honest. I'm someone who loves you enough to fight this war quietly, until you're ready to win it loudly. Tears pressed at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back. Not here. Not yet. Then help me, she said, because I'm not backing down. Not now. Not ever. That night, while Olivia reviewed her case notes and timelines in the suite, Marcus met his investigator in a private corner booth at a low-lit downtown lounge. The PI slid a file across the table. Here's everything on Bianca, and the guy funding her little campaign, Howard Dunn. They've been laundering influence through a dummy nonprofit tied to Belmont's PAC. Marcus nodded grimly. Time to pull the thread, he said. Let's see how fast it all unravels. The rooftop gala was everything Olivia had expected it to be. Sleek lighting, curated jazz, and a sea of designer suits clinking glasses over polished egos. The Belmont logo glowed in soft white against the skyline, casting an aura of prestige over the marble terrace. It was the final night of the conference, a celebration of innovation and leadership. At least on paper, Olivia adjusted the black dress she'd borrowed from the hotel's emergency garment service, tucking a loose curl behind her ear. She was tired, mentally frayed, but she wouldn't let it show. Tonight, she had no agenda other than holding her head high and staying visible. She'd been erased enough for 1 week. As she stepped toward the cluster of Belmont executives near the bar, a hostess intercepted her with a clipboard and a tight smile. Olivia Carter? Yes, she replied, slightly thrown. I'm afraid there's been a change to tonight's speaker lineup, the woman said gently. You're no longer scheduled to speak during the innovation toast. What? Olivia blinked. I was confirmed yesterday. I have the email. The hostess winced. It came from one of the senior board members. I'm so sorry. They've asked Bianca Rhodes to step in instead. And just like that, Olivia's stomach dropped. Across the room, Bianca was already smiling, chatting effortlessly with a few investors. She turned at just the right moment to meet Olivia's gaze and raised her glass as if in mock salute. This wasn't a mistake. This was the final blow. Olivia didn't trust herself to speak. She turned away, weaving through the crowd and pushing open the glass doors to the outer balcony. The city stretched out below, glittering with lives that didn't know her name, didn't care about her war. The wind stung her cheeks, or maybe that was just the heat of shame rising. They replaced me in front of everyone. They've erased me again. She gripped the railing. Behind her, the music swelled and laughter rose. It felt miles away. And then, a hush, small at first, then spreading. She turned to see the ballroom doors part slowly and a black car pulling up just beyond the valet line. The kind of car that didn't belong to just anyone. Heads turned. Conversations stalled. Out stepped a man in a tailored midnight blue suit, crisp white shirt open at the collar. No tie. Calm, collected, unmistakably intentional. Marcus. But not the Marcus she'd always known. This man walked with quiet authority, chin high, expression unreadable. No bookstore manager, no modest boyfriend. This man belonged in boardrooms and headlines. He didn't look around nervously. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight toward the Belmont Circle, toward Howard Dunn, toward Bianca, toward the executive core, and stopped at the center of the marble floor. Olivia's breath caught. A few guests whispered. Bianca's face twitched, slight but visible. Marcus turned to the hostess with the clipboard and said, Ms. Carter was removed from the program without cause. You'll want to correct that before the board hears from me directly. And who are you? The hostess asked, voice wavering slightly. He turned, scanning the room before speaking, his voice crisp and measured. My name is Marcus Holloway, CEO of Lexford Holdings. A gasp rippled through the crowd. He let it land before continuing. Lexford acquired controlling interest in Belmont Enterprises 8 weeks ago. Quietly, until now. I've spent this time observing, and what I've seen has forced my hand. Silence. Shock. Olivia could feel the weight of every eye shifting from Bianca to her and back again. Marcus's gaze didn't flinch. "I'll be speaking tomorrow morning," he said. "But tonight, I'm here as a guest, and I stand with Olivia Carter." He turned and looked directly at her, not as someone who pitied her, but as someone who believed in her. Olivia's hands trembled, but she stepped forward slowly, returning his gaze with something like awe. The weight she'd carried for days, suspicion, isolation, doubt, began to fall away piece by piece. And Bianca? For the first time, she looked unsure, truly unsure, because the game had changed, and her opponent just stepped out of the shadows. The next morning, the Belmont Executive Board gathered inside the St. Adelina Ballroom, a sprawling space lined with cream marble and muted chandeliers. What was usually a routine quarterly wrap-up now buzzed with silent tension. Whispers flew fast. Marcus Holloway's name had spread like wildfire the night before, leaving a stunned trail in its wake. Olivia stood near the back of the room, pressed into a shadowed alcove, her badge clipped to her blazer like a silent declaration. "I still belong here." Her mind swirled with last night's image. Marcus stepping from the car, cutting through the noise, standing beside her with calm certainty. She hadn't slept much, running back every word, every shift in expression, every truth now too big to ignore. The board chair, an older woman with sleek gray hair and sharp instincts, tapped her mic. "Good morning. Let's begin." Just then, the side doors opened. In walked Marcus. No suit jacket today, just a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled, and slacks that said he didn't need to prove his authority. It simply walked in with him. Olivia's breath caught. He glanced her way. Not a smile, something steadier. "You're safe now." The chairwoman nodded. "Mr. Holloway, we weren't expecting to find out your parent company was in the room. I understand," Marcus said smoothly, taking the floor. "But when silence begins to enable harm, it's time to speak." Murmurs, shifting in chairs. One executive subtly closed his tablet. "I've spent the last 2 months monitoring Belmont from the inside out," Marcus continued. "Evaluating not just numbers, but culture, systems, people." He paused, letting that sink in. "And what I've seen? Disappointing. Not because of incompetence, but because of calculated sabotage, silencing voices, undermining honest leadership, and protecting individuals who should have been cut loose a long time ago." Bianca sat in the second row, legs crossed tightly, her jaw set like stone. "Let's talk specifics," Marcus said. "Last Tuesday, Olivia Carter's hotel reservation was canceled without authorization. Her assistant, Kayla, was reassigned under false pretenses. On Wednesday, her presentation files were tampered with remotely, traced to a third-party vendor hired by Howard Dunn." Howard shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "You're making accusations without—" Marcus raised a hand and clicked a small remote. The large screen behind him flickered on. Footage from the hotel lobby appeared. Bianca speaking with a concierge, handing over a printed sheet, time-stamped. 2 hours before Olivia's reservation, vanished. Another clip. Dunn's assistant entering the AV technician's restricted booth. Another timestamp. "I have the logs, the authorization paths. Even the burner email account used to submit the travel complaint," Marcus said. "And we've also traced a pattern of internal votes steered through conflict of interest, funneling resources away from campaigns like Olivia's in favor of inflated vanity projects tied to Bianca's division." Gasps rippled. Bianca stood abruptly. "This is a circus." "No," Marcus interrupted, locking eyes with her. "This is accountability. Something you've spent years dodging under charm and boardroom politics." The chairwoman raised her hand. "We'll need to convene on this." "Please do," Marcus said, handing over a thick manila folder. "All of it is in here, reviewed by independent counsel, and let me be clear, anyone trying to sweep this under a rug will be answering to Lexford directly." Bianca, pale now, turned to Dunn. He looked away. Marcus turned back to the room. "And as for Olivia Carter, she will not be punished for surviving sabotage. She'll be recognized for having the courage to rise above it." Applause broke out, slow at first, then rising. Olivia stood frozen for a moment. Then she stepped forward, her eyes shining, not with triumph, but with relief. As the room began to shift, people whispering, reporters scribbling, she reached Marcus. "You didn't just protect me," she said quietly. "You turned the whole room." He smiled softly. "You were never the problem, Olivia. Just the threat to theirs." And for the first time all week, Olivia stood at the center of the storm with peace in her chest. Because the storm was finally shifting in her favor. The silence in the boardroom after Marcus Holloway's exit felt heavy, not awkward, reverent, like everyone was quietly calculating what their future looked like now that the masks had fallen. Olivia stood just outside the meeting suite, arms crossed, her breath steady for the first time in days. A quiet knock of confidence pulsed in her chest. Not arrogance, just the truth finally getting air. Across the floor, Bianca sat with her arms folded tight, her once pristine posture slackening by the second. A paralegal approached her with a document envelope and a polite but pointed, "The board requests your response by end of day." She didn't speak. She just nodded, stiffly, and stood, her heels clicking down the hallway in retreat. No smug farewell this time. Just a woman unraveling. Olivia turned back toward Marcus, who was now speaking quietly with the chairwoman. He held himself the same as always, composed, respectful, but there was something unmistakably final in his stance. The game had ended, and he wasn't here to play anymore. Carl, Marcus's head of security, approached Olivia with a small smile. "You held up like a champ." "I wasn't sure I would," she admitted, "but something about the truth. It steadies you when you stop running from the storm." He nodded. "You didn't just survive it. You outlasted it." A door creaked open behind them and the chairwoman stepped out. She gestured gently toward Olivia. "Ms. Carter, may we have a word?" Inside, the board sat with softened shoulders and weary eyes. Most had avoided Olivia all week. Now they looked directly at her, some with quiet remorse, others with something that resembled respect. "We owe you an apology," the chairwoman began. "You were targeted, and the company failed to protect you." Olivia kept her voice even. "I wasn't looking for an apology, just accountability." "You'll have it," the chairwoman replied, then reached for a folder. "We'd like to offer you the position of Director of Ethics and Innovation, effective immediately. You'll report directly to Marcus, though I'm guessing you're already familiar." A soft chuckle slipped through the room. Olivia smiled slightly but didn't look at Marcus. Not yet. "And you're rooted in real campaign," the chairwoman added. "We'll launch this quarter, with full board support." Olivia nodded slowly. "Thank you. I accept." When she stepped out of the room, Marcus was waiting. "Well?" he asked, arching an eyebrow. "They gave me a title," she said. "And my campaign." He smiled. "You earned both." They walked together toward the elevator. As the doors closed, Olivia turned to him, finally asking what had sat in her chest for days. "Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus's expression sobered. "Because I needed to see what you'd do without knowing who I was. Not to test you, but to protect you. Sometimes, knowing someone has power makes people lean too hard. I needed to know if you'd still fight when it felt like you were alone." She searched his face. "So, all this time? The bookstore was real?" He chuckled. The store's real. I just bought it instead of managing it. Olivia shook her head. You really had me thinking you spent your days alphabetizing poetry. I do. On Fridays, he grinned. She laughed. Really laughed. For the first time since the trip began. It felt like something heavy had finally lifted. As they stepped off the elevator into the hotel lobby, the mood had shifted. People no longer looked away. Junior staff nodded politely. Even a few board members paused to greet her with authentic warmth. Olivia stood taller. Not because of the title. Not even because Marcus was by her side. But because, after everything, sabotage, rumors, lies, she was still standing. And the people who tried to silence her. That evening, she sat on the rooftop garden outside her suite, watching the city come to life below. Marcus brought her tea, sat beside her, and handed her a folded envelope. "What's this?" she asked. He leaned back in his chair. "A contract, but not for work." She opened it slowly. Inside, one line. No more hiding. Just us. Always. She smiled, tears stinging the corners of her eyes. "I think I'm ready," she said quietly. "Me too," he replied. The city was quieter now. From the rooftop garden, Olivia could see the last traces of gold fading from the skyline. The sun, dipped behind the buildings like it too, was ready to close the chapter on a day that felt heavier than most, but meaningful in a way that didn't need applause. She sat curled on a cushioned bench, her heels off, a cup of chamomile in hand. Marcus sat across from her, his blazer draped over the back of a chair, sleeves rolled up as always. Between them sat an envelope, the one he'd given her earlier. It hadn't left her hand for the last 20 minutes. She'd read it again, then once more, and she still wasn't sure how to respond. No more hiding, just us, always. It was simple, and completely life-changing. She looked up. "You never asked for anything, you know, not even after you changed everything for me." Marcus leaned forward, forearms on his knees. "You didn't owe me anything. I just wanted to make sure you had space to be, without pressure, without agenda." She studied him. "But why did you stay hidden so long? Why the bookstore story? Why not just tell me from the start?" Marcus sighed, not out of frustration, but vulnerability. "I've been the man with the money," he said softly. "The guy who walks into a room and suddenly everyone's polite, or interested, or too eager to please. I got tired of people trying to mold themselves into who they thought I wanted." He paused. "Then I met you, in a bookstore where you were too focused on a branding book to even notice who I was. You talked to me like a real person. You didn't flinch when I joked about alphabetizing poetry. You told me my recommendation was wrong, and you backed it up with a 3-point argument." She laughed under her breath. "That does sound like me." He smiled, but his tone deepened. "I stayed hidden because I didn't want to break what we had by rushing it. I wanted you to know me for me, not the headlines, not the holdings." Olivia looked down, her fingers tracing the seam of the envelope. "And did I pass?" she asked quietly. "Was I the test?" He moved to sit beside her. "You were never the test," he said. "I was. I needed to know if I could be the kind of man who chooses honesty over control. I failed that in the beginning. I hid behind convenience, but then things got real. You got hurt, and I couldn't just stand back anymore." She let his words hang between them, then, slowly, she reached for his hand. "I would have loved you either way, Marcus, whether you ran a bookstore or built an empire, but thank you for showing me what kind of man you are when no one's watching." He squeezed her hand, his voice warm. "You saw me before anyone else did." They sat in silence for a few minutes. No boardrooms, no headlines, no sabotage or power plays. Just two people breathing through everything they'd walked through. "You know what's strange?" she asked softly. What? I don't even feel angry anymore. Not at Bianca. Not even at Dunn. Why not? Because they built their world on smoke and mirrors. And we still showed up with something real. We walked through the fire without burning out. That's more powerful than any title. He nodded, his voice gentle. And it's only the beginning. As the wind picked up and the city buzzed softly below, Olivia leaned into Marcus's shoulder. The woman who had once walked into that conference with a borrowed outfit and a heart full of doubt was gone. In her place was someone stronger, steadier, seen. A soft drizzle coated Seattle like a familiar blanket. Olivia stood in front of the bookstore where it all began, where she met Marcus, where she mistook him for a quiet man who alphabetized poetry and knew too much about first edition covers. The hand-painted sign still creaked in the wind, the scent of old pages mixing with espresso from the cafe next door. She smiled as she stepped inside. Marcus was behind the counter, dressed in a charcoal sweater, sleeves pushed to his elbows. A few customers browsed quietly, unaware that the man who rang them up had once brought down half a corrupt boardroom with a thumb drive and a steady voice. He looked up when he saw her. "Hey," he said, warm and easy. "Hey," she replied, walking toward him with the kind of grace that came from having weathered something and come out more than whole. She dropped a folder on the counter. Proof of concept is finalized. Lexford's funding the pilot next quarter. "That's fast," he said, opening the folder. "Impressive. Turns out, when you clear out the people working against you, progress moves pretty quick." Marcus grinned. "Imagine that." They moved to the reading nook, where she kicked off her shoes and tucked her legs under her. He handed her a mug of peppermint tea, just how she liked it. "This place feels different," she said, glancing around the cozy corners and handwritten staff pics. He followed her gaze. "It hasn't changed much, but you have." She looked down at her hands, then back at him. "I thought stepping into a bigger role would mean I'd have to leave everything soft behind. But maybe softness isn't weakness. Maybe it's what keeps you human." He reached for her hand across the table. "You didn't lose your softness. You just gave it a spine." Outside, the rain picked up. But inside the store it was warm, settled, grounded. Later that week, Olivia stood at the front of a small auditorium inside a women's leadership summit in downtown Seattle. She wore a navy blue pantsuit, her curls pinned up, a wireless mic clipped to her lapel. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm and sure. "I used to think success meant keeping your head down and letting your work speak for itself," she said. "But silence doesn't always protect you. Sometimes it enables the very people trying to erase you." A quiet hum of agreement rippled through the crowd. "I stood in the rooms where I was spoken over, redirected, and eventually targeted. Not for doing less, but for daring to do more. And it took me a long time to understand that rising doesn't mean you have to harden. It just means you have to choose who you let rise with you." In the back of the room, Marcus sat with his arms crossed, watching her. Not like a man guarding a secret, but like someone witnessing a fire he once saw in a bookstore hallway finally burn in full bloom. After her speech, young women came up one by one, thanking her, asking for mentorship, sharing their own stories. Olivia listened, responded, offered business cards. But what she gave them most was space. To be seen, to be heard, to stand taller. That evening, as the two of them walked home through Pike Place, past street musicians and neon signs reflected in rain-slick pavement, Olivia laced her fingers with Marcus's. "You sure you're okay not being the center of attention?" she teased. He looked at her sideways, smiling. "I've never wanted the spotlight. I just wanted to make sure the right people had it." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Well, in case no one's told you lately, you did good." He kissed the top of her head. "So did you." And, with the city glowing behind them, they walked forward, not as a secret couple or a guarded CEO and his hidden partner, but as two people who chose truth, respect and love over fear, games, or power. Together. The early spring air in Seattle was cool but sweet, tinged with the scent of cherry blossoms blooming in pockets across the city. In a quiet garden behind the Holloway Foundation's new Community Arts Center, strings of soft Edison bulbs hung from wooden beams, casting golden light across a private gathering of friends, mentors, and colleagues. There was no red carpet, no media, just laughter, shared stories, and the soft clink of glassware over long wooden tables. Olivia stood at the edge of the garden, looking out at the people who had gathered, her team from Belmont's new innovation division, a few of the junior associates who once whispered behind her back and now looked to her for guidance, and even the chairwoman who had quietly championed her promotion once the dust had settled. Marcus stood by the grill, flipping rosemary chicken with his sleeves rolled up, looking every bit like the man she'd met behind a bookstore counter. But now, everyone in the room knew who he was, and it didn't change how they looked at him, because he wasn't hiding anymore. And neither was she. "Speech! Speech!" someone called out from a corner table. Olivia held up a hand, laughing. "Absolutely not. Not tonight. Just a few words," the crowd chimed in. She glanced at Marcus, who gave her a mock shrug. "They're not going to let you get away with that." Rolling her eyes, Olivia stepped up onto a small stone platform near the fire pit, brushing her hair behind her ears. "Okay," she began, her voice warm and clear. "I'll say this much." The small crowd quieted, their eyes on her, not with expectation but affection. "A year ago," she said, "I thought success was something you had to chase, something that came only if you played the game the way others told you to." A few heads nodded, but then the game changed, or maybe I just stopped playing it, and I realized something important. You don't need to wear someone else's mask to be powerful. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You just have to be real and consistent and brave enough to show up even when the room doesn't want to make space for you. She paused, her gaze drifting to Marcus. "And when you find someone who sees you at your most honest, who doesn't try to fix you, hide you, or manage your shine, that's when you know you're living life on your terms." A soft wave of applause swelled through the garden, not explosive, but sincere. Olivia stepped down, and as she walked back toward Marcus, he handed her a glass of wine with that same quiet smile she knew by heart. "To us," he said. "To always showing up," she replied, clinking her glass to his. As the evening wore on, music floated from a Bluetooth speaker, and a few people danced barefoot on the lawn. Olivia sat with Marcus on a bench beneath a flowering dogwood tree, watching the string lights flicker gently above them. "You ever miss the quiet bookstore days?" she asked, resting her head on his shoulder. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but mostly, I just remember that you walked in and flipped everything upside down with one question about branding psychology." She laughed softly. "We really started in the margins, didn't we?" "We did," he said, "and now we're writing our own story." She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the cool night air. "I don't need a title to feel proud," she murmured. "No," he agreed. "You just needed to be seen." They stayed like that as the celebration wound down. No grand declarations, no fireworks, no final twist. Just the steady truth of two people who refuse to shrink. Not for power, not for fear. Not anymore. Thank you for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or brought a tear to your eye, that's why we tell it. Stay with us for more powerful stories. See you next time.